Okay, what am I doing? I'm doing something to do with TypeScript this time. Definitely something to do with TypeScript. Actually, what am I doing? Typed CSS bars in React. Hello there. Today I'm going to show you a very quick tip. My thumbs. Why are my thumbs here? Put the thumbs away. Sorry. Hello there. Today I'm going to show you a very quick tip on how to add TypeScript support for CSS variables to be injected into your styles via the style attribute in HTML in a React app. It's going to be great. Let's go. Okay, so here we have a very basic, incredibly basic React app that just displays a title and a image of me. You see the resemblance? That's because it's me. What we're going to do is we're going to be making this animate, the image animate, just very basically. It's just going to make it rotate, but we're going to make it rotate using React variables, not a CSS animation. It's kind of a convoluted, needless example, but you know, it's a good excuse to show you what I mean with this stuff. So I'll flip us over to the code now so we can see what powers this incredible piece of engineering. So as you can see, we have the very bare bones basic it's actually a create v React TypeScript app, but yeah, we're really only interested in the app.tsx, as we can see in the file tree up there, and the app.css. We've also got, so we're using the power of v to import a JPEG, and we're just slamming that straight into the source of an image tag. That's it. That's all it takes. And so then if we just go to the actual CSS, you'll see in the main tag just got some basic stuff, a background color so it doesn't look awful, and we can use dark theme, yeah, and just a few bits and pieces there. I've gone ahead and already added this transition transform 1 second linear, which is basically going to mean that the transformation, the rotation that we're going to send this image through is going to be nice and smooth because there's going to be a transition on it. It will just go like every second, it will try and catch up. It will take a second to catch up to the new value in a linear fashion. Cool. So the next thing we're going to want on the CSS for the image is a transform property. Transform has loads of good stuff in there. It's how you do browser native animation-y bits. There's Copilot telling me what we want. So by default it's going to be 0 degrees, but we're going to want to actually change this value over time. So we're going to have that in CSS land, well, because this is a pure CSS file. There's no JavaScript involved in this. It's completely static. You can't take JavaScript variables and push them into CSS by default. You have to actually do some legwork to make that happen. So the best way to change this value for the rotation is going to be with a CSS variable, which are defined with the var keyword, and then CSS variables themselves are defined with double dashes, and then any name. We'll just call it rotation. So if you're just in a CSS file, you can actually, I'll go back to the top because it's kind of convention. You have this root tag, which applies to the entire document. It doesn't actually refer to any particular element. It's just the root of the document. In here, kind of the convention is where you would define all of your CSS variables. So we'll actually just, for an example, we'll define our rotation, if I can spell, to be that initial value of 0 degrees. Let's set that there. You can have any number of them, and it can be any string as long as it starts with the two hyphens, dash, and you've got yourself a variable. Nice. So if I flip us back over to the browser, so if I just open up DevTools, you will see in the Styles tab, we have at the very bottom, inherited from HTML, we have this root element with our CSS variable of rotation 0 degrees. Then if I zoom into our actual image, we've got the image here. We can see the styles which are actually added to it. If I go and hover over that rotation, I'm not sure if that's showing. I don't think that's showing in the in your video there. I don't think you can actually see it, but for me it's showing a it's showing the actual current value right now, which is 0 degrees, which is nice. So what we can do is on this actual element, we can change this variable using just the dev tools. So we could put it to, let's start with 10 degrees. I'm actually in the way, so maybe if I just duck out of the way, it's still me on the screen, so it's all good. Like you see, I'm rotating here. That's as I'm changing in the browser. I'm changing the rotation variable, and round I go. So we want this to happen without me manually going in and actually writing it ourselves. Great. So back in the code then, to achieve this, we're going to need to somehow get this rotation into the CSS file. So we'll go back to the app.tsx. So what we can do is, just like we did in the browser, we can add styles onto the image tag themselves using the style attribute. Lovely. The style attribute takes a object, and you can actually say any. You'll see here I'm getting prompted by my IntelliSense that this can be any of the actual CSS attributes, any of the CSS properties. They're in like JavaScript format. You've got like flex grow here, which if you were to write that in CSS would be flex grow, but that's not a real thing. You can see that if I was to put flex grow 1, just as a complete random example, you can see I got this error here. Like IntelliSense goes, no, TypeScript only knows of certain set CSS property names, and we're trying to pass in an actual property name which TypeScript doesn't know about. It needs to be the JavaScripty sort of version, so that's not going to work. And in the flex grow example, we'd have to do flex grow in JavaScript sort of language, and that's okay. That's like, so TypeScript knows that it's one of these constants. So TypeScript knows that flex grow in that format is allowed. It's on the type for style. I can actually see the type for style here. It's a react.css properties or undefined type. So I could get that. I can do import type from React CSS properties, and I could even go there. And I can see it extends CSS.properties, CSS.properties, standard properties. I might be going a bit far now. Longhand properties, accent color. Oh God, undo. Accent color. Yeah, I've got zoom and stuff down here. Word wrap. Loads of good stuff. Loads of good stuff lives on here. But TypeScript knows about all of it. It's a very specific subset. It's not just any string key. It has to be very specifically CSS property string keys. So I want to, what I want to be able to do is inject my CSS variable. So I know that I want rotation, and I want this to be a variable. I'll have this actually called rotation. Okay, so let's just do the React part here. Let's just make this nice and reactive. Let's say useState 0. And we'll call this rotation, set rotation, and then we're going to set up a use effect to create a interval. We're going to subscribe to an interval and unsubscribe once we're closing off this app to prevent a memory leak. But we will subscribe to rotation. Not quite. Subscribe to interval is what we want. So this is going to be a interval. We'll do something in there in a second, and we're going to clear the interval afterwards. We're going to unsubscribe from that set interval timer. Okay, and then so in this interval we're going to go and set rotation to we'll actually do it in steps of we'll just do it in 90-degree steps, and we're going to make the interval, we said it was every 1 second is the translation. Let's have a look. App.css. So we said that the transition for the transform will be 1 second. So if we make the interval 1 second as well, once the transition is complete to the new state, will have ticked, and the next one will come back around, and so then we'll have this like smooth animation of just like always next on a nice steady keel. Let's close that off. So that's exactly right. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're actually going to, for best practice, we're going to we're going to actually use the function version of the set state that comes back from use state. Let's just give a bit more space here. Why are we doing that? We're doing that because this dependency array is going to require, it would need to know about the current rotation value, which would mean we'd need to pass it in there, which means it would run and reset a new interval on every change of rotation. Instead, we can access that by just from the setter by using this arrow function in here. Much nicer. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so next up, this is actually just going to pass in a flat number, but that's not actually the format that we want. We want this to be a degree value. So I'm just going to do a little bit of string manipulation here to just inject that number straight in and put deg on the end for degrees. Okay, this will, I mean, the TypeScript is shouting at us. I wonder if this will actually work in the browser. If we go to the web browser, we can see it's actually working. I'm kind of going backwards, which is, you know, that's not bad. We can flip it back and then we can sort of change this. We can actually do minus degrees, and presumably that will do the intended behavior if I flip us back to the web browser. I'm still going backwards. Is that backwards? What was it before? Let me flip it back. That's the way. It was right originally. Yeah, clockwise, anti-clockwise, it's confusing to me. Either way, looks great. Looks incredible. Look how smooth that is. Just round and round we go. Lovely. So, you know, if you're just in JavaScript land, it's not going to care. You know, it's only TypeScript that really gives a shit about this not being a CSS style. Do we care? We do. We do care. TypeScript has to be happy. You know, a happy TypeScript is a happy programmer. So in TypeScript, we have the concept of a module. A module is basically a set of types it could be for a library. It could be for, say, like the DOM has got a module, you know, like the whole window module, which you sometimes need to extend. The global context in Node, which sometimes needs to be extended in Jest or something like that. So we can actually declare our own modules, but you can also extend modules. So we know that CSS properties exists on React. We can, you know, we imported it a second ago. We can have CSS properties here. It's something which is known to React. It's part of the React module. So we can go and grab the React. We can extend the React module. We can grab the interface called CSS properties here, and in here we can actually do anything we want. We can extend, we can add any additional property, like we can say foo, which is a number. Let's just do this as a first example. We could actually foo right there, it's a CSS property number. So we've actually extended it. It's kept all of the old methods. You saw that they were all there, so you can say foo fonts optical sizing. I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna have to go and find out now. So that's great, that's there, that's lovely. We actually are going to want to do, we want this, right? We want to have our rotation, or even better, we want the double dashes and then a string, which can then be equal to a string or some CSS properties. So you could pass in a number as well. You know, some CSS variables are just going to be numbers. We could have done the calculation on the inside. It could have been like, you could have a variable which is for like, yeah, flex flow, could be 1 or 0 or something like that. So it's probably going to be a string or a number, really. That's what's going to get passed in. But as we can see, this is actually a syntax error. It doesn't like this at all. So what we can do is similar to in JavaScript and similar to down here, you can have like a string. So we can, just to start with our rotation example, and to make this work, we can just put a string double dashes rotation, which is great. But then what about if I have another variable which is like interval maybe, and then this would maybe be what I would use for how many seconds it would take, and then I could match up the intervals. Maybe I'll do that now just for you know, just for fun, really. That'll be seconds. I'm actually going to do a quick rename of this variable. It's going to be bad, but I'm going to call it I. Sorry about that. next person who has to maintain my poor code. Again, I'm going to do some pretty bad practice here. I'm just going to do a whole nother use state. Ideally, you'd want to like have one data object, I suppose, that you could mutate. Well, maybe not, I don't know. For a convoluted example like this, it probably doesn't really matter. And set interval. No. Let's undo. Interval seconds. And yeah, I'm just gonna have to rename this. Actually, no, I won't need to. I will. I'm just gonna VAW and curly. I'm just gonna uppercase that and uppercase that because this is just going to be a constant which exists outside of the application. Let's just say const interval equals 1, and we're going to times it by 1,000 because this will be in seconds. Always good to leave type annotations. The interval in seconds for the animation tick. Explains that nice and clearly. So we're passing that in, but so we've got rotation covered, right? We could one by one add each property to this. So we'd say, okay, I've got another CSS variable I want to be able to inject. It's going to be dash interval, and then you're going to get to the same point where you're going to have to do this again and again and again, and you can do that. That's completely fine. But wouldn't it be nice if there was a generic way we could do this? Yes, it most certainly would be. We are going to need to change this for a string. This is what we want. We're actually going to have to do some string concatenation here. We're going to have to change the type of quotes. It's going to need to be backticks. Change that one and change that one. And it doesn't like this because you can't actually have backtick quotes as the keys for objects, just something that the JavaScript parser does not like. So instead you need to wrap it in square brackets. Square brackets. Hit save. And we're almost there, We need to actually just name this to be a key. Key is any double dashed string, which can be a string or a number, and boom, there you go. Type errors go away, completely fine. Everyone is happy. Let's just finish off this example by going to the CSS. And instead of using this 1 second, we're going to just use our injected variable, which is going to be interval. I will flip us back into the web browser, and I will just change the interval. Let's say we up it to 2 seconds. Look how slow that is now going. Slow and steady she rotates. And then what if we bump it down to 0.1? You can just see that all I am doing is just changing this number. One cool thing, yeah, you know, in Vim you can do Control A to increment, Control X to decrement. Amazing. So we'll do 0.01. So this should be, the interval should be like super quick now. It should be like, so I wonder how quick this is actually going to go. This is like, what interval would this be? This is in like 100th of a second. 100th of a second it will interval. Might be going a bit mental now in the background. Let's get back to the web browser and find out. Whoa! Round we go. Nice. Spinning like crazy. Nice. And I think on that bombshell we can end this short. Thank you very much for sticking with me. See you in the next one. Spin, 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 spin.